Alright, so stage one, the boost build. You guys saw I got a turbo a while ago. It's a 7875. I believe it's VS Racing. Just used for a short time from a friend. I got everything capped off so nothing gets dirty. So this was the 6-liter I got from the junkyard. Got it completely tore apart and nothing is left in it, no bearings. So our newest sponsor on the channel, father-in-law, made me a cam bearing tool for this. Pretty sweet deal. So I drove the bearings out just now, works really well. I'm gonna finish getting the block cleaned up all the way. I've done a pretty good job. This engine wasn't too greasy, luckily. I've already honed the cylinders, but I'm gonna clean out the journals, all that. We got the crank polished up as much as I can. It's definitely a semi-sin build. So we got new bearings, put that in. We could get the new bearings in for the cam. New bearings in for the crank. Set the crank in. I do have the main bolts. I put the main caps on, bolt it down. Then yeah. So from this point forward, we're just assembling. So we get everything going. Alrighty, I got the new bearings in. That line, that's just from the O-rings on the driver portion of it. Holds it in place. Blew everything out there. We'll still spray it and wipe it down. I don't have my cam yet, but it's ready to go. I wanted to get that in first before I put the crank in. For one, it's like a lot easier to crank out. And if there was any metal shavings or anything, we wanted to be able to blow it out without getting it on anything that was important. But now, step one is done, I suppose. Put it back on the engine stand and we can maybe get the crank put in. Spins freely, that's a good sign. So before we get too much further, for the cam bearings, if you do install them yourself, they do have an order that go in. The box usually tells you. The bearings will have these numbers on them. You have two of these, and one of these. Position 1 to the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then main bearings, you'll have one that's different than all the other ones. It only goes in the middle. The thrust bearing or something. It keeps it from going forward and back. And half of the bearings will have a hole on it that goes in the block side because it's where the oil feed is. And these ones have nothing. These would be on the cap side. So this is kind of exciting. Getting going. So now I have to buy rod bearings. I have Gen 4 rods. This is an LS2 crank. I have LS2 rods and pistons. So Gen 4 stuff, but it still has the same reluctor wheel as the other 6.0, like what it came out of. So yeah, some more stuff. Get the rotating assembly on, then we start putting gaskets on it. So a couple tips when you're putting on assembly lube. Use your little dealy. Put it on the bearing. Never use your finger to rub it in, because as soon as you do that, you introduce all the dirt that's on your finger to the bearing. So just put a bead on there and then let the crank sit down onto it. And then this is an LS specific thing. You see all these caps have like a little notch or wing. They call it a wing. All of them face towards the rear except for number 5, and they all have numbers stamped. So you'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is the other way. So just be wary of that. So like this one is 5. This is the only one that will point forward. Alright, all the caps are on. I have the bolts inside. It's really cold out here, so I'm letting them warm up in the house. I don't think it'd be a big deal if you did it. I just I have snapped a head bolt to green it because it was freezing cold outside, so I'm going to play it safe. Thing spins freely, nothing's rubbing, no grinding noise or anything. Deck's on the other side. Things all cleaned up. Looks like I got some shopping to do. I'm really excited to get this thing going. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Wanted a turbo for a long time. I know it looks kind of goofy now, it's all covered up, but contamination control. Alright, everything is tightened down. It's all lubed up. So, gotta get like the expansion plugs or the galley plugs back in. I had bought the Barbell, the aluminum machine billet, there we go, back here, Barbell, for the oil diverter. No idea where it's at. So I'll probably end up buying another one and then finding it shortly thereafter, but whatever. Gotta get main caps and, not main caps, rod bearings, there we go, for the rods, and then rings for the pistons. And this thing is going to be going back together. I almost put the windage tray, splash guard, whatever you want to call it, on, but then I realized I didn't have the pistons on. Kind of need those. And it makes it really hard to get to them when you have the splash tray, windage tray, whatever on. Looking pretty good, not bad for a garage build. Let's take a minute to admire this here turbo. This was the one that was on 454 Chewy's truck for a short amount of time. Guess it wasn't enough for him. This is my first boosted build, so we'll stick with this. If it's not enough, then we'll upgrade to like maybe the Gen 2 billet one, or maybe even the 80 mil. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just get this thing on there first. I do think I'm just going to buy the Huron Speed turbo manifold and then build the hot side myself. Same with the cold side, the intercooler piping and all that. It's just kind of how I am. Terrible at saving money, so I like to buy things little by little, piece it together. I did end up finding my barbell. This is what people refer to as the LS barbell. It's a lot tighter tolerance than the factory plastic one, so less unfiltered oil gets past your oil filter. I'm not exactly sure all the specs on it. I just know it's better and it's really cheap on eBay. Goes in the back of the block. You gotta pull the rear main down in the box of stuff I put it with when I put an engine together. Is a cam gear chain tensioner. It's trick flow. It's how to retrofit a block that isn't drilled for it, like the aluminum blocks are. Or some of the LS aluminum blocks, but yeah, that's where it was. Kind of grabbing things. If you saw my older videos, we had that parts Yukon. Pulled the transfer case out of it. It's the same one that's in the black truck. I'm going to a 4L80, so I'm gonna see what kind of shape this one is on the inside. I might just rebuild this one. Have to change the input shaft so it'll bolt to the 4L80. So little by little, we are getting there.